today. My name is Anne Wangondu. I'm a leadership consultant and executive coach, and I will be moderating this session today. So before we begin, I would like to hand over to Catherine Musakali for some opening remarks, and then we'll get on with the rest of the hour. Catherine?
Thank you. You here this evening. In a particular way, I'm so grateful to ZEINAB, who's a great friend, as they say from Tene, who has agreed to speak to us today about navigating the corporate ladder. You spoke earlier on in the year, and we listened to you. You spoke about your need to have mentors speak to you on a broad subject, a number of subjects, and we listened to you. And we thought that this evening, we will have a conversation about how can we as women navigate the corporate ladder? How can we deal with office politics? How can we be the best we can be in the corporate world? And we found someone who has done it, who's been there, who's broken the glass ceiling, as they say. And we think that her story is so impactful, and we wanted to share that story with you. So mine is simply to welcome you and to thank you for joining us. I want to thank in a special way our brand ambassadors who are represented on the call by Rita Kavashe, who are really pushing us forward and asking us to reach even greater heights. I want to thank the board members as well, who are doing their best to bring all these good programs to you. And so without saying too much at this point in time, I hand back to you, Anne. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. So it is said that to rise to the top, one requires a cocktail of political intelligence, communication skills, charisma, and personal branding. Now, to help us unpack all these, please welcome our speaker for today, PS ZEINAB HUSSEIN. So I'm going to say a little bit about her before we get into her discussion. So PS ZEINAB has over 20 years work experience, both in the private and the public sectors. Prior to joining the public service, she held various senior leadership roles in McKinsey Africa, working in Johannesburg, in Lagos, and in the Nairobi offices. Her work at McKinsey as a consultant saw her transform and reform various sectors, ranging from national oil companies to large banks, and the merger of telecommunication giants across West Africa. Prior to joining McKinsey, PS ZEINAB held various senior roles at Shell Africa, including internal auditor for the Shell Africa Group, aviation manager for both Shell Aviation East and West Africa, and she also sat on the management teams of Kenya Shell, Shell Ghana, and Shell Aviation. So as you can see, she has a wealth of knowledge in the corporate sector. In the public sector, PS ZEINAB has served as the Principal Secretary for the Departments of Gender, Irrigation, Post-Training, and Skills Development, and is currently the Principal Secretary for the Department for Correctional Services in the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government. PS ZEINAB holds a master's in public administration from the Harvard Kennedy School, Harvard University. She also holds a master's in public policy and as a Mason Fellow from the same university, and also holds an MBA from the University of Nairobi. PS ZEINAB has other interests as well. One of her pet projects is the Widows of Kenya. She's also very interested and supportive of technology for kids. One of the things that she said is that she sees all of us will be speaking in code very soon, or we will get left behind. She's also an avid gardener and loves flowers, and her favorite flower is the birds of paradise. P.S. Zainab enjoys reading, and her go-to books are those that illustrate that the power of growth is within each and every one of us as individuals. I would like to now welcome P.S. Zainab to give us her speech, and then we will have a chance to ask her some questions. So welcome, Madam P.S.
Thank you very much, Anne, for your welcome. Thank you, Catherine. We've come a long way. As you said, ours is a long journey together. I see a lot of friends here. So also saying hello to my friends and hi to everyone. I don't hold the monopoly to wisdom. So I can only take you through my experience and my journey. So what you'll hear today is mostly the experiences that I've gone through in my journey through my growth in both the public and the private sectors. So I hope through that story, you'll be able to get a few key takeaways that you can apply in your own career and in your own lives as you try and grow, both in your careers, but also in your own lives. So I think, Anne, we can begin and we can start with, we can show the slides. Yeah, so I would like you to tell me, if you are employed, who do you work for? Who has a few answers to that? This will be this slide will be a bit interactive, but who do you work for? Who has an answer to that? You can put your hand up. Catherine, I would like 2 or 3 answers from that.
Okay, there's an answer that has come into the chat box from Julie Nasimiu. She says she works for an international NGO.
Okay. One more answer. Who do you work for?
Okay, a couple more answers. For family dependents, I work for myself, my land manager and myself, God, self, and then my employer, and in that order, myself, myself, myself to earn a salary.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I want all of us from today to start understanding and knowing you never ever work for anyone but yourself. It doesn't matter who has employed you. It doesn't matter whether you're employed by anyone. You never ever work for anyone but yourself. And the reason I say this is because the only person who cares about your growth and development is yourself, not your employer. And the growth, and once you have a mindset that you never ever work for anybody but yourself, you then start to understand that putting your best foot forward at whatever job that you're doing it for you, not for your employer. And that is the biggest key to succeeding. Let me tell you why I say this. In my entire career, I've only looked for jobs twice. The rest of the times I've been headhunted. And I've worked across many sectors, across many industries. And the reason why I was headhunted is because at every job I worked, I put my very best foot forward as if I was working in my own company for myself. Now, what that does for you, 1, you gain skills, 2, you stand out, and 3, people hear about you and come looking for you. No one is going to come looking for you if at your current job, you're performing poorly. No one is going to come looking for you if you don't aim for excellence. No one is going to come looking for you if you're delivering any results where you are right now. So for those who said you work to earn a salary, no, you don't work to earn a salary. You work for you because you have a vision and a goal for yourself. For those who work for their families, no, you don't work for your family. Your family benefits as a consequence of you working for yourself. And for those who work for God, I buy that. You work for God and for yourself. So I hope that one of the fundamental takeaways from today, you work for yourself. Now, this attitude of working for myself since my first job has ensured I've consistently grown. There is no job I've ever done for more than 2 years before the next opportunity presents itself. I have been at one point in time, and I'll discuss this in my next point, I have even resigned and been asked, no, you can't resign, go and leave, we'll find something for you. That's what happens when you work for yourself. It's all about you, it's not about anybody else. And when you grow, it's all about you. It's you who earns the big bucks, not your line manager, not your family. They will benefit. It's not your company. When you move companies and go and work elsewhere and earn big money, it's all about you. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that will be your key takeaway. Next slide, Catherine. The next point, make yourself indispensable. And it derives from my first point. As long as you make yourself indispensable, people will make space and room for you. At one point in time during my career, I had to move to Ghana. My husband then was going to work for Coca-Cola in Ghana. I was working for Shell. I was an internal auditor for the Africa group. And they said, you know, you can work from anywhere, so we will help you move to Ghana. And you can do your job from Ghana. So I followed my husband. I kept my job, got an office in Ghana, continued doing my job from Ghana. Unfortunately, the job involved me traveling quite heavily, and I had young kids and I had just moved to a new country. So I went for my first assignment away, that was in Ethiopia, for about 2 weeks. And by the time I came back, I mean, as a mother, you've left your kids for 2 weeks, you're in a foreign country, you don't have the systems and support networks. And the following Tuesday, I came on a Friday, the following Tuesday, I was meant to go to the Netherlands for another audit. And the Monday, I actually went into the office and resigned and told my boss, you know, I have kids, I can't do this. And it was helter-skelter for like 2 hours. Then they came back to me and said, you know what, no, don't resign. Go home, take leave. When you come back in a month's time, we'll have found a job for you. And that's how I ended up being the aviation manager for West Africa. That job was offered to me because of my previous record, of the kind of employee I am, the kind of input I put. I made myself indispensable. When you make yourself indispensable, the companies will make room for you. My second example, I had to leave McKinsey when I got pregnant with my 4th child. So I came, and I did not know that they were actually waiting and counting for me to finish the time that I needed to take care of my baby for them to come and call me back straight from the house. So again, make yourself indispensable, do a job for you, and you find growth will come easily and effortlessly. But it's not easy, because making yourself indispensable means you go the extra mile. You add a lot of value to the company that's employed you, to yourself, because your growth and development is your business. It's not your manager's business or your company's business. So in between delivering for the company, you're also adding a lot of value to yourself and development to yourself. And lastly, you gain or gather a broad range of skills that the company feels it would be a loss to lose you. So make yourself indispensable. The next point, Catherine. Now, I love this point. I've said, make yourself indispensable. I've said, who do you really work for? Before you do those two things, get clear, get very, very clear what it is you want. Be very clear. What is it what do you want? What do you want now? What do you want in 2 years? What do you want in 3 years? What do you want in 5 years? And where is it? How do you want it? When do you want it? And what are you willing to put in to get it? If you don't get this clear, then the ship will sail wherever it goes. How do I get clear? Ever since my first job, I've always looked 10 years ahead. And from 10 years ahead of me, I plan backwards in chunks of 1 year. Then I plan backwards, then I plan again in 2-year chunks, then 5 years, then the 10-year map. And every year without fail, I will evaluate the plan. This is what I wanted 12 months ago. Have I reached there? And I mark myself out of 10 and a percentage out of 100 as to what I have been able to achieve the last 12 months towards my 10-year plan, towards my 2-year, 5-year plan. And I will evaluate and look at all the parameters that I put for myself and say, okay, fine, I'm 50%. I didn't get 50%. This is what didn't go right. This is what did not go right. This is what went right. What are the gaps I need to close? How am I going to close those gaps? Where this is going to come from? All those things are planned religiously, annually, without fail. So get very, very clear, because if you're unclear, I think there's someone who said, when you're solving a problem, getting clear about what problem you're solving is 99% of having solved the problem. Then the 1% becomes effortless because you know exactly how you're going to do it. This point also goes to with what we learned at McKinsey. One of the questions you're asked as a consultant, or you're required to ask as a consultant, what problem am I solving? Because if you don't know what problem you're solving, you can solve 99 problems which have absolutely nothing to do with the goal that you're looking at. So be very, very clear what problem you're solving, the how, the where, the when, the who, the resources, and be brutal and go for it. Next point. Now, after you get clear about what you want, again, I'm going to repeat, it's nobody's responsibility to grow you. It's no one's responsibility to ensure you climb the ladder. It's no one's responsibility to make sure you succeed. It's all your responsibility. So once you get very, very clear, one of the ways to make sure you remain indispensable, not only to your current company, but also in the job and the marketplace, you remain viable in the marketplace, is to expand your skill set. And you must grow. If you don't grow, you stagnate and you die. One mantra at one of my former companies, McKinsey, is we evaluate you at 6 months. And you must have grown on several dimensions. One, personal growth. We must see a growth in you as a person. You have better communication skills. You're learning something there. You are more articulate. You're becoming a better problem solver. You're becoming a better solution builder. Then you have functional skills that you require for you to do your job. If you don't grow across, we had like 6 dimensions. We evaluate you at 6 months. At 6 months, we'll give you another 6 months to course correct. If you don't course correct in 6 months, then we start to manage you out. Now, I want you to see life as McKinsey. If you do not grow and develop yourself, life will manage you out. Not McKinsey, life will manage you out. So you must constantly be growing and developing. let's look at babies. You know, I actually am impressed and astounded by babies, because within a 6-month period, a baby really grows. They move from helpless babies to crawling. From crawling, in the next 6 months, they're standing up and touching things. It's the same thing for you. You must be adding new skill sets. If not every 6 months, at least every single year. You must have something new you have learned. You have something new, some new skill set you have added to your repertoire, whether it's working in a new geography, whether it's testing a new sector, whether it's exploring a different function or a different role. Make sure you are growing. Do not stagnate. And 2 years is the maximum amount of time you can remain stagnant. Else you start to rot and life manages you out of the job or your career. Next one. Now, it hasn't been all smooth sailing. It's been tough. And when I look back, my biggest lessons came from 2 areas. One, the bosses I thought were the most difficult, and the bosses I didn't like. But I can tell you that the experience I had with those bosses, I gained skills for a lifetime. And those are the skills that I have used over and over again. So when you have a difficult boss, it's a blessing. Thank God, because that person is making you uncomfortable. Ask yourself why. Do you need to grow? Do you need to change something? Do you need to improve yourself? Because again, it's all about you. So when you find yourself in difficult positions, those are great, great opportunities for learning. Very early in my career at Shell, I think I was, my first job at Shell was a sales rep for a new product that Shell had brought into the market. They hadn't even tested it. So my job was to introduce it into the market and try to get it to work. It was some technologically advanced fueling system that wasn't actually working at all. And so that's what I was given. But I think the skills I learned in navigating between the suppliers of the system, the management of Shell, who I was reporting to, and the customers that we were targeting, I learned skills that prepared me for a lifetime of success in a sales environment. So when you get that very difficult job, go back, read, research, seek help, consult, do it. And thank God that you have that opportunity to do a very difficult job under very difficult circumstances. Adversities also serve as a reminder or as a warning. Let's take, for example, something like cancer. You can have cancer for quite some time. You're not aware you have it. It's growing in your body. You don't know. But pain alerts you to a problem. So pain is good. Pain is a warning system. So when something happens to you in your career, in your spiritual life, in your home life, whatever it is that causes you to feel pain, it's an aha moment. What is this moment telling me? What can I learn from this moment? What can I get from this moment? How do I leverage this moment for my own growth? And I did have a moment like that at Shell. At one point, when I was the aviation manager, I had a client who went down with a lot of money for the company. And it was a very serious issue. And that is the moment I made up my mind. You know what? I don't think I want to keep doing this. I think the skills I've learned here are enough. Now I'm going to leverage all the skills I have here and apply to go to Harvard with the skills I have here and leverage myself out to an even better position. So if that adversity had not happened, I would never have had the impetus to actually look for something different or seek something different. But more importantly than actually even taking that and seeking something different was every time you have an adversity, it's a time for you to shine. Let me tell you why. If you're digging holes and you fall into a 1 meter hole, getting out is very easy and it's really not something worth giving a trophy for. But if you fall into a really deep hole, like a borehole, and you get yourself out of there, that's real triumph. And that's what I did. I actually did get Shell and myself out of the hole I had dug ourselves into by that customer going down. And I made a promise to myself I was going to redeem myself, and I did. So when you get adversity, it's not time for you to whine, wallow in self-pity. You can do that for a day or two. The thing is to regroup with yourself and ask yourself, first, this is a moment to actually reflect, look back. What do I want going forward? How do I redeem this situation? And actually come out of this place shining. So after that huge adverse incident, the next year, I actually did get an award as the best Shell's aviation manager across the entire Shell aviation globally, after that serious adversity. So adversity is a friend. It's a blessing in disguise. It's an opportunity for you to grow. I was watching a movie at one point in time, and it's a very interesting movie. I think most of you have watched it. It's I can't remember the movie, but it has this guy who behaves like Noah, and there's Morgan Freeman, and the woman, the wife of the guy, was praying for patience, and Morgan Freeman came and told the lady, "Look, when you pray for patience, what do you think happens? Do you think God gives you a glass of patience to drink, or He gives you situations where you can practice patience?" So also, when you pray for growth from God, He doesn't come and give you growth in a cup to drink. He gives you opportunities to grow, because you can only grow from experience, not from reading, not from studying. You can only grow from experience. So adversity is a very good friend. Next point, Catherine. I like this one. It's very difficult to swallow. You are responsible for you. So take 100% responsibility for your results. Take 100% responsibility for your relationship with your boss. It's your fault, it's yours to fix. Take 100% responsibility for your relationship with your colleagues. Have you ever noticed one thing? Whenever there's a problem, you are there, you're part of it. Somehow you feature. If you're featuring and it's affecting you, then it's your responsibility to fix, and it's your responsibility to get the results you want in your life. It's no one else's responsibility. I cannot put that in any other terms than how I put it. And I've had several challenges, even in my current role. And when I find the same pattern recurring across different individuals, I have to sit back and ask myself, what in me or what about me is causing this kind of a reaction or this kind of a result? And what can I change, my approach, my whatever it is, so that I get different results from different results than I'm currently getting. And this is important because, again, your success is your business, it's no one else's business. So it's up to you to look around you, see the areas you're not happy with, the individuals you're not happy with, the company you're not happy with, whatever it is, and ask yourself, since I appear in all these scenarios, how do I fix this? And get to fixing it. Next one, Catherine. Now, this one is interesting. Always do the right thing, always and at all times. And I will go back to my example where I was at Shell and I had that customer go down. What actually worked in my favor was the fact that I did the right thing. Those things went wrong. I had documented everything. So it's always good to do the right thing at all times, no matter what. But don't die on the right, ladies. Don't get hung on being on the right and then you die hanging on the right. Now, if you are driving a car, a small car, and you're on your way to Eldoret, and you find this heavy trucker coming right at you, it's on your side, it's overtaking, you can decide to be on the right and die on the right, or move aside and let the truck pass and get back on the road and fight another day. And you'll find this a lot with your bosses, especially because we're all women, and you might have these bosses who come at you like a ton of trucks. So you have to be very perceptive and figure out, do I need to die today? Or is this something I can move aside a bit, let this truck pass and live to fight another day? And these are very critical skills. At one point in time, I needed to make a change in my current department. Now, the thing is, if I made the changes too fast, I would die on the right. If I make the changes gradually over some period of time, it's like moving off a little bit, letting the truck pass and then coming later and implementing the changes I need. So don't die on the right, but do the right thing. Next. As women, we love rituals. And I do love rituals because they ground me, they remind me of what's important, and want to make them a habit. There's a saying that if you do something for 21 days, then it's hardwired in your brain. Once they become a habit, then you're introducing very positive and good habits into your career, your life, and all other aspects of your existence. So I'd like to urge all of you to establish empowering rituals, traditions, and ceremonies that support your vision of who you want to be. For myself, I have the annual ritual, which I said I must do every year without fail. I must sit with myself, converse with myself, and look at my entire life, all aspects of my life, and decide what do I want for each aspect of my life, where do I want it, by when, and where the resource is going to come from. From that, I also have a monthly ritual for more immediate goals. I have a quarterly ritual for 3-month goals. And I also do have daily rituals because as they say, your habits make your personality. So if you establish good habits, then you have a very self-reinforcing virtuous cycle. Your daily habits will become your monthly habits, will become your quarterly habits, will become your annual habits. So create rituals that enhance that what you're doing daily is feeding into your month, is feeding into your quarter, and is feeding into your year. And they can be about anything and about any topic, but you need to ground yourself in some repetitive ritual that allows you to brutally and honestly evaluate yourself across all aspects of your life. I have a book which is now about maybe 26 years old. I said, keeping that book when I was about 21. That's how far back I've planned my life. And when I go back that far today, I can see the journey to where I am from then. I can see every year how I've grown up. I can see how I marked myself when I was 21, when I was 22, when I was 23, all the way to now. So I urge you, it's a powerful ritual. What you write down get measured. What you measure gets done. So don't apply this only to companies, also employ and apply this to your own life. Next slide, Catherine. Take care of you. There's only one you. And if you're not in a good space, all the things you want to achieve, you can't achieve them. According to me, these are the 5 aspects of my life that I plan with every time. There's me, but I'm made of different things. There are different aspects of my life. There's my faith, my spirituality. I have goals for that. I have targets for that. I have measurements for that. I have my career. Again, I have goals. I have measurable targets and rituals around my career. I have my family. I'm a mother and a wife. So again, I have goals for my family, goals for my children, goals for my home. Again, I plan about my family every single year without fail. I plan for my family, though I plan for my career. I plan for my children, though I plan for my career. I plan for my home, though I plan for my career. Relationships. There's not only you and your family. I'm sure all of you are daughters, your sisters, your aunties, maybe a grandmother. You're also neighbors. So you really must also carve out some time to plan goals and targets and measurements around you and the community. So those are the 5 areas I plan myself. Catherine, I think we're on the next slide. Just go to the next slide. Yeah. So when I say take care of you, is take care of these things because they're important. Your faith is important, your career is important, your family is important if you have one, your relationships are important. So plan and take care of these areas, because if you take care of these areas, you have taken care of you. Then seek support networks, systems, and platforms. We are not superwomen. We need support. Plan for good support, plan for good help, and plan for some you time. It's important for sanity. There's a book I'm going to recommend at the end of this, and it talks about carving out some time almost every week to just be with yourself and just take care of you. And I think it's important to do that. Next slide, Catherine. Lastly, there is a higher power, ladies, whatever you want to call it. Please tap into that. There's a Netflix film or documentary. I don't know whether it's on Netflix or it's on Amazon. It's about women who made history. Powerful women have been there since the time of ancient Egypt. We had Isis. Later, we've had Catherine the Great. We've had Elizabeth I. We've had Margaret Thatcher. They've always been very powerful women. Now we have Jacinda Ardern. So powerful women have always been there. And the important thing is to understand and to know we lead differently as women. And to be able to settle in your own power as a woman, you need divine help. And I can tell you, ladies, across my entire career, forget my career, across my entire life, whenever I have wanted an outcome so bad, I have looked to God for help. And it has always worked. It doesn't matter whether it's in my current public service sector, which is fraught with a lot of challenges that need divine intervention, or whether it was when I was at Shell and I was looking at the next promotion, and I knew I was not, I hadn't served enough time, but I wanted the promotion. Tapping into divine power always helps. But be clear why you want it, not for the sake of wanting it. You must want it because there's a greater good to you getting whatever it is that you want. It works, ladies. And I end with this point number 10, because we think we do these things by ourselves, but we don't. There definitely is a higher power. Please tap into that. I have sometimes even fasted and prayed to get the outcomes that I need to get. So I'm sure you each have your faith. You know how to tap into that power. You're not alone. We have God with us. Next slide, and I think the last one. Now, I want to share these three things with you, or four things here before I finish. Wherever I am, I always ask myself, who are my current role models? So I look ahead at, say, when I was at Shell, I looked at all the people ahead of me and I said, who do I want to be like here? And if there isn't anyone, I move on. So who are your role models? Who inspires you? Because you must have someone who inspires you, someone who you want to be like. Follow their journey, adapt that journey, make it yours. But you must always have a North Star you're looking at. If you don't, then again, your ship will sail everywhere. The second point, I want to debunk this myth of climbing the corporate ladder. There is no corporate ladder, ladies. There isn't. It doesn't exist. It's only your ladder. And you get to decide how far you go. Now, you see what I've put there, that JG for? Let me tell you what that is about. So when I was at Shell has this culture. I think I was at job group 6 then, and Shell's grading groups was, you would go, I think from job group, 10, go all the way up to job group 1, then get into letter categories, I think ABC. So I was job group 6 then. And Shell had this assessment mechanism where they would assess everybody and check, ZEINAB, how far can she go? And the assessment of me was the farthest I could ever go was job group 4, from 6. When they gave me that feedback, I told myself, how arrogant of you to decide how far I can go. Nobody, no one can decide how far I can go. The only person who can decide that is me and God. So ladies, there's no corporate ladder. Throw the ladder, take the parachute, or is it the hot air balloon, and shoot and go to wherever you're going. Lastly, who are you grooming and growing? Because whoever you're grooming and growing also reflects whoever you're becoming. So make sure at every level, especially us as ladies, that when you look behind, you can see people you're grooming and people you are growing. And the last one, there are mirrors everywhere. What I mean by that is there are opportunities everywhere, ladies. We just don't see them. So this is an interesting story. That's why I came up with that. So at one point in time, I was walking somewhere and I was with one of my daughters and she smelled a flower and there was pollen on her nose. And we were on the road and I was like, oh my God, I wish I had a mirror to show this girl how funny she looks. But you see, it's because my concept of a mirror is something that is plastered on a wall and I can look into. And yet I didn't realize that as I was looking for a mirror, parked on the curb of this road were like 20 cars, each with a mirror. So ladies, there are opportunities everywhere. But because our minds are usually fixated on how the opportunity should come and should appear, we normally miss the opportunity. So please open your eyes, be open-minded. There are opportunities for us to grow everywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, PS Zainab. That was such an inspirational talk. And I think for me, a couple of things really caught my attention. One was, just at the end where you said there's no corporate ladder. I thought, wait, that's the whole topic for this webinar. So what does that mean? But the fact that you said that it is our ladder, then that makes sense. And it correlates to what you said, that really it's 100% responsibility for us to grow ourselves. So I just want to read a couple of comments and start off with some of the questions that I have. Because the other very insightful thing that came across from some of the comments from Judy Degwa, quite impactful. Don't die on the right. That was her biggest takeaway. And similarly, I think Jane Kilonzo also talked about her takeaway being always doing the right thing and not dying on the right. So some of the things that the ladies on the WhatsApp group have been talking about was, yes, you could have the skills and the competence and you have the clarity of where to go. and you want to do, the right thing, but you get to a point where there are other things that may be detracting you or detracting your path. So things to do with, politics at the workplace, things to do maybe with sexism or racism, or those kind of things that can come and kind of throw you off your ladder. So I'd like to ask you, in your view, having worked in both sectors, what have you seen as the difference or the similarity in terms of how you've navigated these risks?
Thank you very much. Let me first of all say that I have sort of been, there's a huge difference between working in the public sector and the private sector. When it comes to the politics of the private sector and the politics of the public sector, they are completely different. And the goals of performance and delivery in the private sector is very different from the goals and delivery of the public sector. Now, in the public sector, you might be serving a political audience. In the private sector, you're serving a private audience, and their needs are completely different. Now, when I first got into government, someone told me, it will take you 5 years to understand government. And I was like, no, I'm from McKinsey. Within 6 months, I'll have this thing cut and dried. I'm still learning. That's how different they are. And this is because in the private sector, you're sort of protected. The environment is smaller, the failure is smaller. Here you're impacting an entire country, and your decisions, they may be right, but not the right time. In the private sector, your decisions are right normally at the right time. So there's that huge difference, and we must always understand, especially if you transition from the public sector, from the private sector, bring your skills, but understand. This I was taught in my Harvard class, and I've never forgotten. Context is everything. And the context in the public sector is so different from the context in the private sector. And context then changes how you deliver. But politics, there was politics at Shell, there was politics at McKinsey. Let me tell you something, ladies, and what has brought me this far. One, very young and very early in your career, determine what you want to be known for. Create your reputation and your perception and safeguard that. Draw lines that this one here I cannot cross no matter what. Once you draw those lines, get competent. Because as women, sometimes we sacrifice the need to become competent, because at the end of the day, it's competence that will win the day, not anything else. Everything else, we are going to lose, ladies. But your competence comes with you at all times. Number two, once you're competent, it becomes then very easy to co-opt allies. Now, you must be very, very smart in office politics. When you're competent, you're an asset. You see, nobody wants to be an ally with a liability. People want to be allies with an asset. So make yourself an asset. Building allies becomes easy. Office politics becomes simple. This you can transfer, copy paste into government. Lead with competence, ladies, at all times. Number two, there are several forms of power. Most of the types of powers, legitimate power, coercive power, expert power, international power, power by nature of position, most of these power we lose. What we don't lose is expert power. But there's an even more important power that we must build as ladies, and that is inherent power. The power that no one can take away from you. This comes from either you become a serious expert in your field, you have competencies other people don't have, you have a reputation that's difficult to destroy. So build inherent power, power that nobody can take from you. Most of us get power that can easily tomorrow be taken away from us. So as you build your career, remember to build inherent and expert power, and always lead with competence. Once you lead with that, Even the sexism in the workplace, you can rebuff it because it's harder to lose you than to keep you. I mean, sorry, it's more expensive to lose you. I began my career at Shell when I was quite young. And most of the times you meet these very, very powerful people. But I can guarantee you, ladies, as long as you lead with competence, they fear you. They will fear you and they will respect you. And what you want is to be feared and respected by the opposite sex, not to be taken for granted. Yeah, I hope I've answered that question.
Yeah, thank you. You have answered that question. And I really take those 2 points, the expert power and that inherent power, I think are very key points. So you did talk about, co-opting allies. And one of the questions that's coming from Rose Lumumba is, what role have your networks played in your career growth?
You will have to forgive me, ladies, because I'm going to answer this question in a very unconventional manner. Very little. Very, very little. Yeah. And that's why I go back. Lead with competence. Lead with expertise. Lead with a reputation that's strong and powerful. Then you find allies are drawn to you. Then when you need to leverage a network, you are leveraging that network from a point of strength rather than from a point of weakness. I hope you understand what I mean. So let me give you an example. I was in a situation whereby I was in a new environment. I can't tell you where because I can't share that. And in this new environment, I needed to co-opt several key allies to help me deliver my mandate. But instead of first of all going to engage the allies I needed, I first of all brought in my expertise and competence to bear on the problem, designed the solution to the problem, showed them how the solution would work and how they would benefit, and then went with that solution to my allies. But I just don't go to an ally with a story of, I need help, things are hard, it's so difficult. I first of all get very, very clear what it is that I want. I also get very, very clear what outcomes I'm seeking. I also get very, very clear these outcomes, the allies I'm seeking, how will they benefit from these outcomes and how do I make them participants and stakeholders in this outcome? So again, I always lead with competence and expertise. Now, networks will come in handy when you face roadblocks, when you face serious roadblocks. But networks do not substitute for competence and expertise. They are an added advantage. So do not think networks will work if you're not competent, if you're not an expert in your own field, and don't have a strong repertoire for yourself. Have that, then networks become a powerful tool because they will leverage you as a powerful person. But if you lead with networks, yes, they will open doors, but you can only go so far if you don't have those other 3 things that I've mentioned. So ladies, build those skill sets. They're critical, they're important, and the good thing is, those are not things anyone can take away from you. No one can. So even if this situation doesn't work, you can actually move elsewhere with those skills. And you remain relevant, you remain viable for a longer lifespan in your career. That's my take on that.
Thank you very much for that response. Just thinking about what you were talking about, the way you plan, your career, you have the same plan for your home, your children, and etc. Maybe you can tell us what are the best and the worst decisions that you have made and how they may have impacted or influenced your career progression.
Thank you very much. One of my worst decisions was to quit a very senior job at McKinsey when I got pregnant. It was a wrong move, but then I just didn't have the energy. This was my my fourth baby, and I was tired. So and that set me back career-wise, because then for like 2-3 years I was at home with a baby. But and I tried to do many things, and I failed. I mean, I tried a business, I totally failed completely. I tried other things, I completely failed. And then when my baby was 3 and McKinsey came back and said, please come back, it was a lifeline. But had they not come back, I would have felt like I'd made a terrible, terrible decision at that point in my life. How did it impact me? You know, in hindsight, at the time I was making the decision, at the time I was at home 3 years looking after my baby, I did regret the decision to resign from McKinsey. But with hindsight now, I do realize it was important for me to spend that time with my children. My older daughters were teenagers. It was critical and important that I spend that time with them. It was also critical and important for me to get my 2 young babies off the ground. It was also important to try in a business and fail, because now when I joined government, I knew the loopholes that MSMEs face when trying to operate a business in Kenya. So I mean, it was all around a good experience in hindsight. But when I was in that space, it was a terrible, terrible place. I can tell you that. But the fact that I went through so much pain with that business has been so useful to the Ministry of Industry and some inputs around that. So I think, so for me, I think that was one of the worst decisions that I made. The other one was, of course, the one I made at Shell, and a customer went down with a lot of money, for the company. I had trusted the client. He kept saying, I will pay, and I kept giving him more product, I will pay. And then the next thing we know, he was bankrupt, broke, bust, and I was left holding a dirty baby in my hands. And that experience taught me several things. You know, you don't know how to fail until you failed. You do not know how to handle failure until you have failed. And to be honest, I felt like I had just been hit by a bus when that happened. And you search in your brain for ways and means to solve the thing. And this was one thing I couldn't solve. No matter what I did, I couldn't. At that point in time, when it was going down, I couldn't solve it. Even the solution came by me getting other businesses rather than reviving this customer. This was dead, this was gone, and it went. And so I think at that point in time, first of all, you become very vulnerable. You understand, after all, you're not Superwoman, you're a human being. Number two, you also realize that it's important to always do the right thing, because had I done anything wrong and not documented, that would have been a different story altogether. I learned that. But most importantly, I think from that thing hitting me so hard, and I can tell you, I spent like a week wallowing in self-pity and saying, why me, woe is me. Then I said, you know what, this is not helping. And the only way to get out of this is to get out of this hole and shine brighter than I shone before this incident happened. And I put a lot of effort into that. So again, so now I can speak from a position of strength and say, if you fail, it's a learning. Failure is always an opportunity to learn. It's not the end of the world. Yes, some failures may be fatal. If it's fatal, it's fine. Pick up the dust, stand up, dust yourself, and move on. Because if you fail to move on, if you remain stuck in that failure, then your career ends right there. So you must learn that it's we all fail at some point. Even the best of us, we all fail at some point. But the ones that end up shining are the ones who say, you know what, I have failed. And by the way, be brutally honest. Don't gloss over your failure and say, oh, you know, everything happens for a reason. I mean, be brutally honest and say, I made this mistake. I made this mistake. Because if you don't do that, you will gloss over your failure, not take the learnings, not be able to educate yourself from it, and not be able to recover from it. But if you're brutally honest, then you're able to say, this is where I went wrong. This is where I went wrong. This is where I went wrong. I wish I had done this different. And then employ that in the next activity. When I was at Harvard, I was interviewed by one company, a consulting firm. And I did everything I could to get that job. And I didn't. And it's the first time I interviewed for a job and I didn't get. And I was actually beaten. But that failure is why I got into McKinsey, because I said, now that McKinsey is going to interview me, everything I did wrong in this interview, I'm going to do right in this interview. I'm telling you, that's the reason why. So I'm happy I failed that other company's interview, because that's how I got into McKinsey. So again, failure is a red flag. Hello, pay attention. Pay attention here, 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 and here. Don't wallow in self-pity. I mean, honestly, and you know, we blame ourselves so much as women, especially because we are supposed to be perfect. No, we're not supposed to be perfect. We are human. Look at a baby. When it's starting to walk, it falls several times. We don't say it did wrong. We don't say, how shame on you, how dare you fall, instead of just walking. We are the same. Let's be kind to ourselves. Let's be very kind to ourselves. So I have failed, yes, and some failure has hit me hard. But what the savior has been, brutally evaluate yourself, take the learnings, move on.
Yeah, thank you very much for that response. You know, failure being, you know, our means for learning. And I concur with Alice Mureithe's comment. She says, you know, I like your honesty. It's a key ingredient in leadership. So a lot of that is coming across from, you know, your answering of the questions. So, you know, a number of ladies would probably want to get into the private sector and into those public positions. But a big fear or concern that comes with that is, you know, that political patronage and needing to know somebody before you can get into these positions. Could you say something about it?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll say two things. First of all, there's nothing to fear in the public sector. It's humans who work in the public sector. I know a lot of us in this forum also work in the public sector in different forums. So there's really nothing to fear. And the more we have people with drive in the public sector, the better for all of us. So there's really nothing to fear. But again, I go back to my previous point. Lead with competence. Because once you lead with competence, create the networks then that will deliver you to the space you want to go. And that's why planning is important. I decided in 2006 I was going to work in the public sector. I did not know where then. Yes, that's when I made my decision. That's when it was put down in my book of annual planning. I had no clue where I was going to work, but I knew I was going to work in the public sector. So I went ahead to try and get skills that would place me at one point in time to be able to work in the public sector, hence the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, Public Policy, and Public Administration. From there, I asked myself, well, what do I want to be able to be of great value if I was to work in government? One, I knew I wanted to work in several geographies, difficult state corporations. And I said, McKinsey can take me there because McKinsey works across multiple geographies. They work in very many different corporations, including government. So it would give me a kind of an exposure to that sector. So again, all that was something that I planned for. And then when you plan that good and your networks are aligned, then the universe meets you. That's where God comes in. So prepare yourself for the role, get the requisite skill sets for the role, get the networks that will take you there, and then put God in front. That's the way to get in the public sector. Because there are 45 million Kenyans, so why are you? Why you? So be ready, so that when God is ready, you are ready.
Okay, that's a really, really good answer. Thank you for that. And, just echoing Leila, who says this conversation has been God sent, definitely one that she needed to hear and very, very impactful. So, it will kind of segue to a comment that Georgina made, and you've alluded to this in terms of, being aligned, getting your things together, and then God will meet you where you are. So she asks, you are holding a very high profile job where you have to take care of very many interests. What are some of your practical proposals for remaining faithful to your maker while remaining on the right, but not dying on the right? I think that has impacted a lot of people, that statement. Please go ahead.
Um, Actually, I came with that statement because I realized the more I held on to the truth, I was gonna die with the truth. And you're not good to anybody dead. I mean, you can only carry out your programs if you're alive. So it calls for, I'll call them three things. One, understand who you're working for. At all times, understand who you're working for. First of all, you're working for yourself. So you must always protect your reputation and yourself. That is number one. Number two, who are you serving? So for instance, I may be serving the administration of the day, but I also have a constitutional right to serve my country. So you must, by all means, find the sweet spot where those two meet. And that's the spot you work on. Anything else is noise. Leave it. You cannot solve every problem in my department in the next 5 years. No. So find where the interests of those who have appointed you and the interests of the population and your interests meet. And that's the spot you work on. And excel at that and shine at that. Then doing so will open more doors and more room for you to broaden your scope of the area you can work on. But always begin from inside out, not outside in. Begin with your area. It's called the circle of influence, the circle of control. That's where you go. And this time round, it's three people. There's you, those who have appointed you, and your constitutional duties. Find that spot. And it also happens even in your area of work. You see, sometimes we spend so much time doing so many things, even at our areas of work in the private sector, that don't drive real value. Again, if you ask the question, what problem am I trying to solve? If you always ask yourself that question, it will help you spotlight what problem you should be addressing at this point in time. Because if you work on that, it gives you room to broaden your scope of influence and your scope of control. It keeps expanding little by little. But if you go and you want to do everything today, you'll be hit. You'll be talking from outside. And also in corporations. So please be very, very aware of your circle of influence and your circle of control and begin there. So I think that is the second point. And of course, at that point, bring real skills and competence, ladies, to your work. Real skills and competence, never leave those behind. At all times, always lead with that. And everything will fall into place.
Thank you. And just to echo what Beatrice Oluoch is saying, she says, I like ZEINAB's statement that networks do not replace expertise or competence, but rather are an advantage, particularly when one faces roadblocks. So I think that that point has really, really come across. I'm cognizant of the time and we've gone, 15 minutes over time, but I didn't want to cut Madam PS short or to stop some of the questions that are coming in. But maybe kind of as, coming towards the close and you having talked about, us having or taking 100% responsibility of what we want to change and getting clarity in terms of where we want to go. What are three things that, in your view, we need to consider in 2021 as we climb our own ladders?
Very good, thank you. So I think the first thing, if you haven't asked yourself this question, how are you adding value right now? How are you bringing value right now to your current role? If you haven't asked yourself that question, ask yourself that question. Please respond to it. Figure out how you add value, how you bring value, and how you're going to do it, and give yourself measurable, time-bound targets to do that. Number two, start your ritual of brutally evaluating yourself every single year with brutal honesty. Give yourself goals this year. We're in June now. Give yourself goals until December, in the next 6 months. And come December, before we jump to the next new year, brutally evaluate yourself. Number three, there's one book, I don't know how many of you have read it, but I think I would like to recommend 2 books today, 2 or 3 books, actually 3 books. One of them is The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. I think it's a very powerful book in establishing rituals that ground you and help you get clarity. It helps you get very, very clear on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, and on an annual basis about who you want to be across all facets of your life. So I think please get that book and read it and begin to implement it immediately. The other one I want to read for fun is The Diamond Cutter. The Diamond Cutter actually tells you how to stop blaming others for whatever is happening in your life. And it gives you practical tools to begin deploying immediately. So you take back control and power and begin affecting the outcomes that you want and getting the outcomes that you want. So please get The Diamond Cutter. And the last one I would like to recommend is Becoming Superhuman by Joe Dispenza. It's a very good book that shows you what you think every day is what you become. And if the thoughts you thought yesterday are the ones you are thinking this morning, then your results for yesterday are going to be exactly the results for today. So you must break the pattern of how you think. If you woke up yesterday morning thinking, oh, my boss is bad, my husband, my marriage, whatever, that's what you thought yesterday, and this morning you're still thinking the same, and tomorrow, then really nothing is gonna change. So it helps you break the habit of thinking and begin to evaluate, what am I thinking? And please remember, in fact, he says a very important point. He says, 95% of our thoughts are unconscious. Only 5% of our thoughts are conscious. So some of the stuff replaying in your mind is unconscious because you've done it for so long. So you have to consciously begin to notice it and stop it to get different outcomes. So please get those 3 books. I'm sure they'll be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there are a couple of people lost connection. They are asking if you could just share the titles of the 3 books again.
Yeah, so we have The 5 a.m. Club. It's by Robin Sharma. Robin, R-O-B-I-N. Sharma is S-H-A-R-M-A. The other book is The Diamond Cutter. Then diamond, as in the diamond you get for your engagement, then cutter. It's a fabulous book. How I came across this book, I went to bookstop one day. I think I looked a bit depressed. When I went there, the owner of the bookstore told me, let me show you a book I want to read. Just like that, out of nowhere. And that's how I came across The Diamond Cutter. It's a wonderful book. Please go to the bookstop, they have it. And then, of course, I can't remember who's written that book, but it's just The Diamond Cutter. It's a powerful book. Then there's another one. Then there's, of course, Becoming Superhuman by Joe Dispenza. Joe, then Dispenza is D-I-S-P-E-N-Z-A. Joe Dispenza. I think they're a good place to start. Begin with The 5 a.m. Club, though. It's a powerful book to begin the new you.
Thank you very, very much. I want to give you, just another minute or so to just give us your closing statement. We've taken away so much from this conversation. I think there are a lot of the things that we are thinking that we need to change. And I really liked the analogy that if you're thinking the same thing yesterday that you're thinking today, then nothing's going to change. So we need to change and break those patterns of the way we think so that we can break the patterns of behavior. So maybe your closing statement before we close the webinar.
And perhaps PS can also look at the comment by Winrose. I think it's a really nice question for her to respond for us.
Oh yes, that's a really good question. Maybe I can read it out. She says, the intensive planning of your life is 360 degrees is amazing. What motivates you to be consistent year in, year out? Tell us the secret of keeping a journal for 20 plus years. Thank you, Winrose. That's a really good question.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Thank you so much. What has been the motivation? The motivation has been the outcomes and results I want. Because, I mean, if you don't write it down, if you don't plan it, you won't achieve it. It's as simple as that. Commitment. You must be committed to your own growth and development because no one else will be committed. You must be committed to the growth and development of your family. No one else will unless you do it. So for me, it's the knowledge that, and by the way, Winrose, from a very early age, from year 1, 21 to 22, I realized whatever I wrote down, I would achieve 60 or 70% of it. Every year without fail. And it will happen also for you because whatever you write down, you will measure it, you will follow it up. And by the way, there's something also I didn't tell you. I plan actually twice a year because this is what I do. My birthday is in April. So I plan in December for the next year. But come April, every birthday, I must evaluate how I've performed the last year of my chronological years. And I must now evaluate the plan I made in December. How far am I in achieving it? Because for me, every birthday must mean something. Must have I've made an advancement. And that's why I put the issue of kids. They don't stop. They're constantly growing. They are developing. So what makes us think we can stop growing and developing? And the only way to keep tabs on your growth and development when you're an adult, when there's no incentive at all to do it, is to seriously monitor yourself. So please begin the journal today and then evaluate it on your birthday. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, PS ZEINAB. Thank you for answering all our questions and giving us such insight into your life and your story, both in the private and the public sector. I'd like to call upon our brand ambassador, Rita Kavashe, to make some comments, and then we'll continue. Rita, please, if you can unmute. There you are.
Wow, 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 wow. PS ZEINAB, thank you so much. Ladies, I believe you should unmute and clap for PS ZEINAB for being so brutally useful to us. And that's what we want here. I was thinking here, I guess I'm 10 years old. Someone is sitting in the background. I was seated here and agreeing with ZEINAB, nodding my head that when you are older, you need something else to motivate you to keep planning and to keep doing, because the sky is the limit. And when someone asked ZEINAB, like, what are the 3 things for this year? I was adding myself, gosh, haven't we gone through a pandemic? And what great opportunities exist in this pandemic for women? It is amazing. We can sit here and learning from the experiences of others like ZEINAB. Something that would be, oh, I don't know, I can't make it to that conference and all that. And here we are in the comfort of our homes, we are able to learn. So again, this Sharma book and what ZEINAB talks about, creating the habit, reviewing periodically, being brutally truthful about ourselves are some of the key lessons that I'm taking away myself, that we are responsible for our success. And I think since I joined the Women on Board Network, we've had so many great people like PS ZEINAB talking to us. And I believe, Catherine, we are measuring progress, or women ourselves in this forum are measuring progress by taking all these great tips that we are getting from all these great speakers to really challenge ourselves to make progress, so that it does not become a place to be to kill time, but a place to be to learn great tips. I have learned great tips. My journal, I put my journal in the head, but I'm growing old. I can't remember all the things. So ZEINAB, I'm buying my book tomorrow, very beautiful one, and I'm going to start to journal as I get into this next cycle of my life. And I believe, girls, we are doing the same. So again, PS, oh my goodness, the examples have been real, they have been practical. Your journey is impressive. I believe we have all really benefited from you as women on board, and as an ambassador. We would like to invite you to be yet another ambassador of ours, but Catherine will do that herself. But really, we have learned a lot, as you can see from the wall, from the comments, and the takeaways. Everyone has a takeaway that talks to them. So I believe each one of us has been impacted by your experience in both private sector and in the public sector, and have taken away the areas that they think they will use to make progress, to be better in their career and more so in their life, because you just didn't talk about your plan for self, you plan for family, you plan for building stronger relationship, you planned for family members and children, bringing them up, bringing 4 children up. It's not an easy, and being extremely successful. So we take your lessons and tips and very seriously. And I really wish to thank you on behalf of Women on Board Network for accepting to be with us this evening, and really appreciate that. So back to you, facilitator, or Catherine, I don't know who, but we really appreciate it. ZEINAB.
Thank you very much, Rita, and thank you for thanking PS ZEINAB. She did a fantastic job, and I think, as you said, from all the comments and the evaluation that's coming out of the session, everybody had something to take away from that. So maybe before we close and give the announcements, I can ask Catherine to say a word, and then I will give the announcements of the upcoming events.
Thank you very much, Anne. Amazing. I don't even know what to say. Rose Lumumba is going to speak on behalf of the board. She's going to give the board's position and appreciation to ZEINAB. Rose?
Thank you very much, Catherine. Madam PS, on behalf of the board and the members of Women on Boards Network, we sincerely thank you for coming and interacting with us and talking with us and inspiring us. What we have received today is a whole week's training, summarized, precise, concise, and really with excellent tips that we can run along our leadership journey with. Thank you very much. I am sure the good word will spread of how good you have been. And obviously we may ask you to come back again on a different topic, because just listening to you, you are full of a reservoir of knowledge and experience. I loved the way you presented what you said today. Often I have been seeing many members commenting on networks and how women don't network, and so they are not succeeding because they are not networking. That's why I asked you that, because even in the conversation we had earlier this week, just preparing for this talk, I did not see any network anywhere. So thank you so much for telling us we can make it, and we shall make it. Thank you, ladies, for attending, and thank you for all the comments that you have made. Thank you, our Ambassador Rita. Thank you for supporting Women on Boards Network. We totally appreciate. Now, may God bless you and keep you, and may you focus, at least take one thing, just one, and implement in your life. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Catherine, and good night from us at Women on Boards Network.
Thank you. And maybe you can then make the announcements and then we close. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Catherine. So if you have enjoyed this webinar, we do have a number of events that come up, and you are able to join any of our events. So maybe just as a way of giving you some of the upcoming events, and Hannah has shared some of the links on the chat box. We have a corporate governance training that will be coming up from the 6th to the 10th of September. After that, we will have our 8th annual conference for the WOBN network, and that will be on the 24th and the 25th of November, so diarize for that. A very exciting initiative that has started, the WOBN Awards, will be on the 26th of November, and there will be a link shared with you so that you can nominate worthy women who can then receive the awards, who are impacting both the public and the private sector and society. So again, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam PS. Thank you, everybody who joined us. We really value that you came out in great numbers to listen to a topic that is very near and dear to all of our hearts. So without further ado, I wish you a good evening and hope to see you on our next webinar. So good night and good evening, everyone.